All right, so we got another Zoom interview on the Great Rabbino. We're here with Maccabi Tel Aviv. I'm going to say legend because I think that's a great way to describe you. There for so many years. Devin Smith. Devin, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. And told me you're in Philadelphia, but I want to go back from when we were just talking about it, when you were in high school coming out. And I know you began your college career at a community college. Why'd you end up there, and what led you there?
Yeah, I mean, like coming out of high school, especially being from Delaware at that time, there wasn't a lot of exposure to high level basketball outside of the state, and at that time, Delaware wasn't viewed upon as somebody that was producing high level players. So we only had a few. We had a few guys at Xavier University, a few guys who had left and went to Villanova. So it was rare, and just coming out, and not having those opportunities, I chose community college or junior college because my brother was already there and because I knew the track record of the school and of the coach. So I chose that route instead of, going to a prep school, which was another option.
So I grew up playing basketball in Chicago, and it seemed like every team we played had a guy who was going to a better D1. You just go watch teams, and it's like, this guy's going to Stanford, this guy's going to Illinois, this guy's going to Duke. You would go see Amari Sawyer and all these guys who were just Corey Maggette, and these guys are just, the best players. But that's Chicago. I realized quickly when I met people from all over the country that Chicago is unique that way, that not every high school team has a guy who's playing at a major D1 school.
Yeah, I mean, like you'd be surprised, like with the proximity to, major cities, Philadelphia is 25 miles away from I grew up. And then you have New Jersey, which is right across the bridge as well. And at that time you had, two of the top players in the country. You had DeJuan Wagner in New Jersey, which was 30 minutes away. You had Eddie Griffin in Philadelphia, Jameer Nelson in Chester. So it's all one small bubble. And now, Delaware is starting to get the recognition with players who play in the state like DiVincenzo, players who are left like Trey Duval, at high major schools. So it's good to see.
People feel that a lot about Minnesota, where I'm in right now. You got Tyus Jones and his brother Trey, and all these guys are coming out. And people are going to the high school games, which is really cool, which was my experience in high school. So then you transferred to Virginia, major program. What was your experience like there?
It was good, man. I think, I had some setbacks. I had a few injuries in college, and one of them was before I even got to Virginia because all my credits didn't transfer over to Virginia from junior college. So I had to take another class at home before I got in during the summer. But, all in all, man, I think it was a really good experience. Growing up, I always wanted and admired, ACC basketball. Being from the East Coast, it was ACC, A10, Big East. Like those were the power conferences that, really attracted, high-level players, So just having the opportunity to play in the ACC, was a blessing in itself. And, unfortunately, we didn't have highly successful teams, but we formed relationships, and relationships I formed with people who weren't on the basketball team as well. I met my wife at Virginia as well, so I think that was the right place for me to be.
Yeah, now they're a great program, which is really cool. And so I was telling you that I've when I was researching so much of your background, like you have, it seems like a thread. So, you went to community college and you go to Virginia and you find this home there, and you bounce around to Europe a little bit, Greece and Spain, but then you find this home at Maccabi Tel Aviv where you not only excelled, but you were an Israeli Cup MVP and a very well-known Israeli basketball player. How did Israel become sort of, and I'm gonna label this because you spent so many years there, but a home for you, especially on the court? What was it about Israeli basketball that seemed to mesh with your style?
I just think like the principles of the club, kind of matched mine. It was, they demanded excellence, and always like they didn't settle for anything, less than that. So that's something I always believed in, and I wanted to push myself, improve myself, and after spending so many years hunting those jobs, not just hunting those jobs, but hunting when you play against those teams, you know, like it's always raising your level a little bit. And then when you're on that team, it's consistently showing up every night because you know you're going to get everybody's best. So, I mean, that was part of it. And, you know, it just, you know, I had a good relationship with everybody around. Management, you know, I still speak to some of those guys, you know, pretty regularly. And, you know, at the time, Coach Blatt was there and, you know, my relationship with him was really well. So it was really good. So, you know, it just felt like somewhere where I wanted to stick around. And, you know, after a while, it just became comfortable. You know, my family was really loving being in Israel. You know, my youngest two kids were born there, and you know that was really like home for them. So, you know, as long as they're good, you know, I can play basketball anywhere. So I prioritize, you know, the comfort of my family as well as myself over, you know, making a couple extra dollars. You know what I mean? So that was important to me, and it's kind of building that legacy. You know, you're appreciated there, so you want to build upon that because that'll last a long time. You know, people will remember that legacy for longer than a couple extra dollars will. You know, so.
Yeah, and you played on such good teams. I'm sure it didn't hurt the kids that they were on the beach and had some of the best food in the world. Also, you know.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I miss it, man. I feel like, you know, for me, it was a great city. You know, because you know I'm a homebody, but I like to eat. I like to eat well. So like going out to eat consistently, and you know, there was always a new restaurant, you know, opening up, and you know, this the love that you got wherever you went was something that sometimes when you're in it, you take for granted, you know. So
yeah, I've lived there for 2 years and spent a lot of time there, and also like passionate about sports, especially basketball and baseball, which is starting to grow a little bit there. Is that there seems to be a general connection. You see so many NBA players heading over to Israel, or guys who want to get because they know that the quality in the EuroLeague they're going to get and the coaching they're going to get, and they speak English, which helps. Can accelerate their career. And you've seen so many guys now, and we're about to watch our first Israeli get drafted probably in the top 5, Denny, and it's really remarkable. And then you spent a year with the Suns. Tell me about that team a little bit. There's some big news about, I don't know if you followed the news today, but it looks like Chris Paul is headed to Phoenix and pair with Ayton and Booker, which Ricky Rubio is, you know, he's a Minnesota guy for a long time.
Yeah.
But, Chris Paul's another level. And that's 3 guys that you can really score. You worked with that organization. You think Chris Paul is a missing link for them?
You know, I think Chris Paul adds another dimension to them, not even on the floor, but like, you know, he's a vocal leader, and he's a guy that, you know, sometimes rubs people the wrong way who don't want to work hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He usually never has an issue with guys who are professional and get there every day. Not saying everybody's not professional, but he demands a level of professionalism, and I think that'd be good. You know, I mean, the talent they have there is really off the charts, you know, with Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Those are 2 extremely talented guys. And I think, you know, from my experience, just being around basketball, adding Chris Paul to that, you know, can take them to another level.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I like when some of these teams, you know, I don't love it just being the Lakers and the Celtics and, you know, over and over again. Like, I think this makes the Suns, and hopefully Devin Booker is just obviously an extremely talented scorer, understand that like his game will be elevated and he won't want to leave Phoenix, and Phoenix can grow with that group and the leadership. I mean, look what Paul did with the Thunder last year, who had far less talent than the Suns have now. But now you told me you're with the G League Wolves. They're in Des Moines. And what's that experience like? So now you're really working with a lot of guys who are, you know, some may be on the cusp of the NBA, but some, you know, this is their career and they're going to travel from Des Moines to some of these smaller cities. What's that experience been like so far? And obviously, hopefully we get back to that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I loved it, man. I really appreciate, you know, the opportunity to have this experience because, people always look at the G League as development for the players, but it's development for everybody, the front office,
Yeah.
development for the coaching staff. So everybody's getting a chance to multitask and be responsible for so many things. Like we have a limited amount of people on staff in comparison to an NBA staff, and having been on the NBA staff and seeing now like being having so much responsibility, I really appreciate the position, that much more, because it's easy for your voice not to matter when there's 15 coaches on the NBA staff. You know what I mean? But when you're there every day making an impact on and off the floor and building those relationships with those guys, it's almost a feel like a European experience because you're around each other all the time. And I think that's what it's about, man. You want to try to help those guys, whether they continue with your organization or not, and building those relationships and being in that situation allows you to do that consistently. And I really enjoy that about the job.
I think the G League, different than the D League, right? The G League represents something different. It gives the guys, it's actually a career, where the D League was like, if I'm not going to get to the NBA, it's not going to really matter. And the G League, it's, and it can help some of these smaller cities, like Des Moines now has a basketball team, which, really has a team that they can get behind. People can go to the games and coaches can learn and become better. It seems like a really great, NBA hasn't had the minor leagues like Major League Baseball to develop coaches, management, all that kind of stuff. And you hit the nail on the head. Anything else? People follow you on social media? Anything you're doing out there you want to plug?
I mean, I'm pretty quiet on social media. It's not really my thing. I post here and there and try to support, my people that are out there on social media. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's just continuing to grow. I mean, I hope everybody continues to follow, my career after basketball and into coaching. But, you never know where it might take you. Opportunities can come about all across the globe. And I mean, we see that with coaches going from the G League to Zalgiris and Igor going from Sacramento to Fenerbahce. So just, you never know when our paths can cross. And, I'm always thinking about Israel and supporting Maccabi. So even if it's quietly, I'm always watching the Panthers.
Sounds good. Thank you for your time. And I'm also always watching Maccabi Tel Aviv, even if as I was telling you earlier, my Hapoel Yerushalayim fans give me a lot of crap for that. But I would rather wear yellow. I mean, you hit it. They win. Yeah. How do you argue with that? I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Definitely. I appreciate you having me on. Definitely.